Oh yeah, is it Thursday already? Today we got a pretty shaky topic to say the least, and that is Disney Star Wars, whether it has been good or bad for the first 12 years of the Disney brand owning Star Wars. Now yes, this might get a little controversial today, but we are going to keep it civil in the chat. We also have some other news regarding anniversaries. It is the 10-year anniversary of a certain Star Wars project, a 16-year anniversary of a certain other Star Wars project, and a 1-year anniversary of another Star Wars project. And we got some Star Wars news to get to as always. So without further ado, let's dive into all of it. What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing on this fine Thursday afternoon? What's up, chat? First things first, before we do any of this, let's open up the chat and say hi to everybody, shall we? So, let's do that first. King Shadow, what is up? Darth Thor in the building, what is up? Thomas, what is up? Kit Fisto, how we doing? B-Man, what is up? Brandon, how we doing? Dustin Kennedy in the house. Amanda, how we doing? Starchip66, what's up? Mando United, how we doing? Star Wars Santa, what is up? Darth Racoonar, how we doing? Navarro, what is up? If I missed you, you know the deal. Just yell at me in the chat. Say, Mike, what the hell? Why did you not say my name? Have you lost your goddamn mind? Okay, and we'll just give everybody a nice little,
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
Okay, so first things first, Fearless, what's up in the chat? Today is Fearless's birthday, everybody. So can we get some happy birthdays to Fearless in the chat, please? That is the first priority of this live stream right now. Let's give some happy birthdays to Fearless in the chat. But we're going to be talking about Star Wars, specifically Disney Star Wars, over the last 12 years, whether it's been good or bad. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to do it in a civilized manner, or at least we're going to try to, because that's all I can control. So, I have this pretty great article that was written by The Hollywood Reporter talking about whether or not Star Wars under Disney's reign has been good or bad. Spoiler alert, I think it's been pretty damn good, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to end this poll, start up a new one. If you haven't yet, smash a freaking like on this stream. What the hell are you waiting for? Smash a freaking like on this stream. Mr. Beckham, what's up? Andy K, how we doing? All right, well, let's start up a new poll. Do you think, or we'll put it this way, is Disney Star Wars, well, actually, we'll put it even this way. Disney Star Wars is ... good. Oops. Answer number 1 is going to be good. And answer number 2 is going to be bad. There's going to be no in between. Okay, so you got to choose one, good or bad. We'll put up that poll and we'll leave it up for the majority of this stream. But let's dive into this, shall we? When we talk about Disney Star Wars, that means in 2012, when George Lucas sold the company to Disney, from there on, for the last 12 years, from Star Wars Rebels to the sequels, to Star Wars Resistance, to The Mandalorian, to the Bad Batch, to the Book of Boba Fett, to Ahsoka, to Clone Wars Season 7, to Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Jedi, The Acolyte, or Season 1, Kenobi, and now, of course, looking forward to Skeleton Crew and more. All of that. Oh, I forgot to mention Rogue One and Solo as well. All of that. Is it good or is it bad? It's a lot. We're not just talking sequel trilogy. We're not just talking specific projects. We're talking about all of it as a whole. It's going to be a lot. But we're going to go project by project, and we're going to read this article as well. So first, I think we should go project by project. And then we'll go and read that article, shall we? All right. So starting off in the year 2014, 10 years ago. 10 years ago today, we are celebrating the 10-year anniversary today. This very day, August 3rd, of Star Wars Rebels. So I've said it, if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Star Wars Rebels may be the most underrated Star Wars project of all time. In my personal opinion, when anyone ever asks me, Mike, what Star Wars project should I watch? I say Star Wars Rebels. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't care that it's animated. Even if the people who are asking me don't like animated stuff, I say Star Wars Rebels. For a few reasons. One being, it's of the animated shows, I think it's the best. Now, you might not agree with that, and that's perfectly fine. Clone Wars, I love. Bad Batch, I love. I just love Rebels a little bit more. And it's mostly just because season 2, 3, and 4 are all just some of the greatest Star Wars story ever told. Season 1 is a lot of just world building, introducing these characters, Ezra, Sabine, blah, blah, blah. But 2, 3, and 4 are some of the greatest stories ever told in a time period, the original trilogy time period, that's probably the most intriguing to me. So we're celebrating the 10-year anniversary today of Star Wars Rebels. We're also celebrating today, October 3rd, a busy day for Star Wars releases, the 16-year anniversary of the Clone Wars. So think about that for a second. The Clone Wars came before Rebels. And in my head, I think Clone Wars is like a million years older than Rebels for some reason, but it's only 6 years older than Rebels. That's not that much. So that's pretty wild. 16 years ago, Clone Wars started today, and 10 years ago, Rebels started today. That's true. 10 years ago today, we got introduced to the greatest character of all time, and that is Chopper. Okay, let's go through all these projects, shall we? So starting with 10 years ago today with Star Wars. Oh, do this. Why you do that? Okay, there we go. With Star Wars Rebels. So, blah, 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 whatever. That we don't really have to read these. Followed up by, in the next year, The Force Awakens. So this started off Star Wars with their first sequel trilogy movie, Disney's first Star Wars movie. And say what you will about the sequel trilogy, to me, The Force Awakens is a good movie. Honestly, it sets up all these characters so well, from Finn to Rey to Kylo to Snoke. It sets them up all perfectly. Even Luke Skywalker. To me, it's the next two movies that really take the sequel trilogy down for me. But The Force Awakens is a solid movie in my personal opinion. Okay. But that was in 2015. Moving to the next year, in 2016, also Star Wars Rebels ran for 4 years, so all 4 seasons, it just started in 2014. But in the next year, you have Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. A movie that made how much money? Close to 1.2 billion, something like that. Somebody help me on the chat. How much money did Rogue One make? I think it's like 1.2 or something. I believe it's in the top 50 for most money made by a movie ever. I'm not too sure. But Rogue One, I mean, what can I say about Rogue One? It is probably one of the greatest Star Wars movies of all time. No, it is one of the greatest Star Wars movies of all time. It's in my top 3. I'm sure for many of you, it's also in your top 3, or it's even your number 1 in the chat. Tell me in the chat if Rogue One is your favorite Star Wars movie. But it's just a perfect movie. And I know a lot of the production stuff, it came together in the end last second. But it's just a perfect movie. It's absolutely a perfect movie. Can't say enough good things about Rogue One. So we're off to a great start. Star Wars Rebels, fantastic. Force Awakens, pretty damn good start to the sequel trilogy. And then Rogue frickin' One. So we're in 2016, year number 4, and we're on a pretty good track here. Then comes The Last Jedi. Probably one of the most divided, if not the most divided Star Wars project of all time. The only argument would probably be The Acolyte. But I think The Acolyte is because... I think The Acolyte's divide is a lot of because of The Last Jedi. One happened because of the other. 1.059 billion? Okay. I was close. Okay, but The Last Jedi, the sequel to The Force Awakens, and the second of the sequel trilogy, divided the fandom quite a bit. Jeremy, what's up? Quite a bit. Quite a bit. Okay. Then you have Solo, A Star Wars Story, coming out about 6 to 8 months after The Last Jedi in 2018. 6 months later. And it did not go well. For a few reasons. First of all, The Last Jedi, dividing the Star Wars fandom, and this movie had to follow that. They also recasted Harrison Ford, one of the greatest actors of all time. And it was released in the same month as Avengers Infinity War. I know they're two completely different franchises, but there's a lot of similarities and a lot of similar audiences, as I'm sure many of you in the chat right now are fans of both Star Wars and Marvel. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Rexer, what's up? But Solo actually lost them money in the box office. It did not make enough money. So it was not good from a Disney perspective. But to me, Solo's a solid movie. If I ever sit down to go watch a Star Wars movie and Solo's on, I'm not going to be upset about that. I'm not going to turn it off. I love the movie Solo. It's a great, solid film. It's probably not in my top 5, but it's not at the bottom either. Okay. Then you have Star Wars Resistance, and I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I still haven't watched it. Still haven't watched it. I know. A lot of you guys are like, Mike, you got to watch Star Wars Resistance. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. But for now, still haven't seen it. Okay. Then we get, oh, wait, what? Oh, yeah, I forgot about this. Technically, The Mandalorian came out before Rise of Skywalker. I forgot about that. So it does technically come out about a month or actually a few weeks before Rise of Skywalker releases, because Disney Plus launches in December of 2019, or November of 2019. Selena says, still can't understand why Solo tanked. Yeah, again, it's mostly just because of The Last Jedi divide in the Star Wars fandom and the fact that it's just a Solo movie. But you would think, because of how successful Rogue One was, that they would go back. I mean, you'd think that fans would go, okay, Rogue One was a spin-off of just random characters. That made $1 billion. Fans loved that. You'd think that they would go see Solo too, but that just didn't happen. Maybe it was because The Last Jedi. Maybe it was, I don't know. I really don't know. But it tanked either way. Then we have The Mandalorian. And I cannot say enough good things about The Mandalorian. The revival of the Star Wars fandom, as some people call it, because they don't like the sequel trilogy. But it kicked off Disney Plus, the streaming service, on a very, very good note. If any other show, really, from Andor to Acolyte to Boba Fett to Kenobi, like if any other show kicked off Disney Plus's opening night or opening day, it wouldn't be the same. The Mandalorian succeeded. The Mandalorian walked so that all these other shows could run. We wouldn't have got the Book of Boba Fett. We wouldn't have got Ahsoka or anything else, Andor, if The Mandalorian didn't succeed at the crazy level that it did in 2019. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the character of Din Djarin, but the majority of that has to do with a character that was dubbed Baby Yoda for a while, and now we know him as Baby Grogu. So that happened in 2019. Also in 2019 was The Rise of Skywalker. And again, after The Last Jedi, a lot of fans either checked out from the sequel trilogy or they were very, very upset and weren't going to be pleased with anything else that happened. We'll put it that way. And in 2019, Rise of Skywalker released, and it was met with another divide. Some fans wanting The Last Jedi to continue the way it went into a third movie, because this one kind of turns back on everything that The Last Jedi set up. But, wow, that is interesting. I just caught a glimpse of what that poll is currently at, and 81% of you right now say that Disney Star Wars is good. I agree, but that is not how I expected this to go. We'll leave that poll up there for a while, though. Okay, so after The Rise of Skywalker, Disney took a big hiatus, which they're still in 5 years later, from the movie theaters. So we only go to Disney Plus, and that's where we see The Mandalorian Season 2. We see The Bad Batch, which is a new spin-off of the Clone Wars. Not on this list, but The Clone Wars Season 7 also came out in 2020, and that was, I mean, Siege of Mandalore is probably the greatest Clone Wars arc there is, and it just so happens to be at the end of Season 7. So that's pretty good, and it set up The Bad Batch. And The Bad Batch is a 3-season arc, which I personally believe the third season is incredible. A masterpiece. First 2 seasons are really good, setting it up, setting the stage, very similar to me to like Rebels Season 1 or Clone Wars Season 1 and Season 2. But Season 3 is like a masterpiece. And that's The Bad Batch. Then you have the Book of Boba Fett, or some fans like to call Mando Season 2.5. And to me, it's not my favorite. It's definitely not my favorite show. But there's a few episodes, kind of the last 3 episodes, the 2 Mando episodes in the finale, that are really good. The one in particular is From the Desert Comes a Stranger, with the first live-action appearance of Cad Bane, Luke training Grogu, Luke and Ahsoka meeting for the first time, or at least the first time on screen. Like, all that stuff happens in one episode. Showdown between Cobb Vanth and Cad Bane. Like, it's absolutely crazy. So, one of my favorite episodes of all time just so happens to be in the Book of Boba Fett. And it didn't hurt to see one of the coolest legacy characters in Boba Fett, one of the best bounty hunters ever, crawl out of the Sarlacc pit. As we all knew he did, or all assumed he did, like he does in Legends, but getting to see it was pretty cool. Now we get to Visions, which is not one of my favorite things ever. I'm going to be completely honest, guys. I'm not a big Visions fan. I'm kind of a canon guy. I like Star Wars canon. There's some legend stories that I really, really enjoy, from the Heir to the Empire trilogy to the Plagueis book to the Bane trilogy. There's a lot of legend stuff I really like. However, for me, I'm more of a canon guy. So Visions is a weird thing. I like certain episodes, like the Ronin one, which is, of course, the first episode of the first season. I think it went downhill from there. There's a few other episodes in there, like the Ninth Jedi or the Twins. I don't even remember any of the names of the episodes from season 2, but there's some good ones in there too. But for the most part, Visions is just not it for me. It's just not it. If I ever go to watch something Star Wars, it's not usually going to be Star Wars Visions. Then we go on to Kenobi. Kenobi was a very strange thing, because week in and week out, fans weren't really, I mean, some fans were, I was, but fans weren't really enjoying this show, which is really strange to me. But come the finale, actually the second to last episode and the finale, fans really loved it. The rematch of the century held to the expectations that it should be, met those expectations. Anakin's gone. I'm the one. You didn't kill Anakin. I did. Like, all that stuff. It's probably one of the most emotional, incredible scenes in Star Wars history now. And it just so happened in this Kenobi show. Yeah. Then we go on to Andor. And Andor is a really, really weird one for me. I love Andor. I know a lot of you guys love Andor. Give me a 1 into the chat if you love Andor. Lee, what's up? But Andor's a really interesting one because it didn't get a lot of views. And by a lot of views, I mean it got fractions of the amount of views that the Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian did. But that's weird, because Cassian Andor, although he's a very side character in a spin-off movie, that spin-off movie, which is Rogue One, made $1 billion. I think a lot of this has to do with the marketing for Andor and how it wasn't really marketed well. And that's why a lot of people didn't really watch the show. But I feel since this show aired 2 years ago now, the fan base around the show has grown. And I think season 2, which comes out next year, is going to be met with a better audience, I think, or a bigger audience, so to speak. Yeah. Tales of the Jedi released in the middle of the release of Andor. If you guys didn't remember, Andor was marketed so poorly that Tales of the Jedi actually came out, I believe, around like episode 6 or 7 of Andor. It was around the One Way Out sequence, I think. Or no, that would be like 8 or 9, right? It was around one of those. But Tales of the Jedi drops, and it's only 6 episodes. It's only about 10 to 15 minutes per episode, and it is incredible. It came out of nowhere. Nobody expected it. Nobody asked for it, and it's a masterpiece. It's about Dooku. It's about Ahsoka, but it's so short and so well crafted that it warranted a sequel. And that sequel is Tales of the Empire, which we'll get to, and it could be getting a season 2 of Tales of the Jedi as well. But that was incredible. Young Jedi Adventures, again, going to be completely honest, I still have not watched it. Still haven't watched it. So if you have seen this, I don't know. You tell me in the chat. I haven't watched it yet. I've heard it's very for like little kids, but I don't know. Haven't watched it. Then we get to Ahsoka. And you guys know this. If you've watched these streams before, you know. Ahsoka is my single favorite season of Star Wars television. I love The Mandalorian. It has 3 seasons. 3 seasons to 1 is not really a fair comparison. But if you take every individual season, Ahsoka to me is the single greatest. Now, it doesn't hurt that my 2 favorite characters are in the show, and that is Anakin and Ahsoka. And I'm a massive Rebels fan, and it's pretty much just Rebels season 5. But Ahsoka is just peak to me. If I were to even rank it with some of the movies, it would rank higher than them. Like, it's that good to me. It introduces brand new characters like Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati that are incredible. It gives you legacy characters like Grand Admiral Thrawn and, of course, Anakin Skywalker. It does everything right. It hits all the right spots, and it's fantastic. It cannot say enough about how great this single season was. And season 2 comes out in a couple years, so we'll see how that goes. But hopefully it continues to go down the right path. Then we get Tales of the Empire, which came out after The Bad Batch Season 3 this year. And Tales of the Empire is great. I loved Tales of the Empire. It's not as good as Tales of the Jedi, but that's kind of an easy comparison because Tales of the Jedi is Dooku and Ahsoka, two incredible characters. Not that Morgan and Barriss aren't, but they're not nearly as important as Ahsoka and Dooku. So it's cool to see the Inquisitors and Barriss and her become the healer that she does in Legends. And to see Morgan Elsbeth with the whole Thrawn and the TIE Defender stuff, that's cool. It's a cool story. It's just not to the same level as Tales of the Jedi for me. It's still great. It's just not the same level. That's just my personal opinion. And then we get to the latest project, and that is The Acolyte. Now, The Acolyte, like The Last Jedi, is a very divided conversation, to say the least. But to me, I loved The Acolyte. Absolutely loved it. Week in and week out, not just talking with you guys, speculating every single week, but the lightsaber combat, the characters. Chimere quickly, and I mean quickly, in just 8 episodes, became one of my favorite characters in Star Wars. Top 10 easily. It's just that good. Now, of course, getting canceled for a second season is a bummer. I wanted to see more of these characters, and if you don't like the show, that's perfectly fine. But I certainly liked it quite a bit. I see you, Lee. Hello. How are you doing? You know? Okay. But that's The Acolyte, and that's the last project. So this is Skeleton Crew, but that hasn't come out yet. Skeleton Crew's in 2 months from today. It releases on December 3rd, 2 months from today. So, that's the shows and movies, of course, from Disney. You have games like Battlefront 1, Battlefront 2, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, Star Wars Outlaws. You got a bunch of other things. You got the High Republic novels from Phase 1 to Phase 2 to Phase 3. You have Star Wars comics from all the Vader comics from the 2015-ish years. You have just the comics coming out now, the Battle of Jakku comics, which we'll talk about in a little bit. There's a lot of Star Wars content, to say the least, over the last 12 years that have come from Disney Star Wars. So the question asked in the chat today is Disney Star Wars good or bad? And for me, it's an astounding good. Yes, there's some projects out there that I haven't even watched yet from Young Jedi Adventures or Resistance. And there's some projects that I don't particularly like as much as others, like Star Wars Visions or even The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. I can sit through those movies. There's some enjoyable aspects of those movies, but they're not my favorite. They're definitely not my favorite. But when you talk about the good, it's not just good. It's some of the greatest Star Wars we've ever received. Don't get me wrong. The Clone Wars is fantastic. The prequel trilogy is incredible. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie. The original trilogy is the best trilogy of all time. But Ahsoka, The Mandalorian, Rogue One, some of the best Star Wars we've ever seen comes in this Disney era. It's still Star Wars. It's still incredible. It just so happens to come out under the name Disney. Let's read this article, though, because I want to talk about this. Okay. So this is coming from The Hollywood Reporter. Let's read this, shall we? Oh, you can't see that, can you? Is Disney bad at Star Wars? Let's see this. High budgets, scrapped projects, fan backlash. It's been 12 years since Disney bought Star Wars, and its galaxy far, far away arguably has too many broken toys. Drinking out of my ahsoka mug today. Feeling good today. All right. Okay. There's an exchange in Star Wars The Force Awakens where Rey and Finn are fleeing the stormtroopers and searching for a way to escape. Rey spots the legendary Millennium Falcon, declares it looks like garbage, and then quickly reconsiders and says the garbage will do. That's, of course, from The Force Awakens. Increasingly, Increasingly, that's the attitude that some fans have about Disney Star Wars programming. Look, we all know this isn't fantastic anymore, but Star Wars is still Star Wars, and therefore it will do, is kind of some fans' opinions. To be fair, Disney Star Wars shows and movies remain far from space junk. That's for damn sure. Their titles typically get glowing reviews from critics and generate box office returns and streaming ratings that other studios would envy, though at a high cost, because these take a lot to create, to say the least. Connor, what's up? So let's run through Disney Star Wars' legacy to date, from The Force Awakens all the way to The Acolyte, and see what conclusions might be drawn, because several aspects of the company's track records admittedly look shaky. A 5-movie franchise that was halted after its box office returns trended in the wrong direction. 6 live-action Star Wars shows, just one of them being a multi-season hit. A startling number of projects going into development and then abandoned like starships on Baraka. And one wildly ambitious role-playing hotel that closed after little more than 1 year. Honestly, guys, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I forgot about this. Do you guys remember the hotel the Star Wars hotel that closed down after a year because it was like $1 bajillion to get in? Give me a 1 into the chat if you remember what that is. Jeez. Doing well. Wish it was Friday, though. Hey, Friday's right around the corner. Friday is right around the corner. I forgot about that hotel. That's wild. Okay. It raises a question. Is Disney kind of bad at Star Wars? Or is this a case where a very high bar for success combined with a passionate fandom's gripes tend to obscure what is otherwise a hugely popular and lucrative franchise? Let's take a closer look. Now, before we take this closer look, I want to preface something. I was just on watching TV, the usual, clicking around, and of course Star Wars was on, so I put it on. It's on TNT or whatever it's usually on cable. And I was watching Empire? No, I was watching Empire. I was watching Empire Strikes Back, and Luke is just gotten to Cloud City to come save his friends, leaving Yoda because he was training with Yoda. He gets there, and the fight begins between him and Vader. And I'm watching this fight, and I'm going, okay, this is pretty good. And when you compare it to A New Hope, where you watch Obi-Wan fight Vader, you're like, okay, it looks 1,000 times better. But honestly, if that movie came out today, it would get absolutely shit on. So my thought process here was, if the original trilogy never happened, okay, and it started with the prequel trilogy, and we've gotten the sequel trilogy since, and the original trilogy was to come out today, would it be crapped on by the current state of this Star Wars fandom? And the answer to that question is yes. No matter how you may feel about the original trilogy, whether you love it or not, which I certainly do, the current state of this Star Wars fandom is in a point where even if the original trilogy released today, it would be absolutely shit on by the people, not myself and not many of you guys in the chat, but the people who just crap on everything. This isn't a Star Wars specific problem either. There's Marvel projects and Lord of the Rings projects and Harry Potter projects and I'm trying to think of other franchise projects, Transformers projects. Like every different franchise has this same problem. The invention or the addition of the internet allows fans to hide their face behind a screen. And that allows them to voice their very harsh opinions that they probably wouldn't say ever in person to face online on X, formerly known as Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, wherever. They're going to voice those very, very strong opinions that they would never say in real life. So if the original trilogy were to come out today, there's absolutely no way that it would be met with the loving embrace that it was in 1977. It actually would probably get absolutely shit on by the current state of this fandom that we live in today, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah. Oh, Annie K with a very generous $6.99. I appreciate that. Annie K says, give us an Ezra impression from Ahsoka. Annie K, can I just request one thing today? I usually do super chat things right away, of course, because super chats are very, very generous and keep the lights on over here, and I appreciate it. But I'm just on this crazy groove right now on this whole Disney is great type deal. You know, but no, not, you know, I'll do that impression later on in the stream if you just remind me later. Perfect. Okay. Back on track. All right. So, I still believe that if today the original trilogy was released, it would be met with a complete divide in the Star Wars fandom, and it would not be met the same way that it was 47 years ago. And I think probably the majority of you would agree with me on that one. So let's keep reading with that in mind. The films. Let the past die. Kill it if you have to, says Kylo Ren. After buying Lucasfilm from George Lucas in 2012, 12 years ago, Disney relaunched Star Wars as a franchise trilogy in 2015 with director J.J. Abrams in The Force Awakens. The film was an absolute blockbuster, yet surprisingly, as it turns out, problematic. The studio did not have a firm creative plan for the next two films, at least not one that they followed. Now, this has been kind of debated for a long, long time. It seems like it's obviously they had George Lucas's plan, which was pitched to them when George Lucas sold them the company. But there's some debate on whether or not J.J. Abrams had a set plan through the entire trilogy. And for some reason, he didn't sign on to do all three movies. So they went to Rian Johnson for the second movie, which we'll talk about in a second. And the plan wasn't really a cohesive one, or at least it didn't stay in the same direction. The Force Awakens goes one way, The Last Jedi goes another way, and The Rise of Skywalker goes a third separate way. So it at least didn't seem like it had a creative plan from the beginning. However, The Force Awakens was a massive success. It's still one of the highest grossing films of all time. $2.something billion. Somebody in the chat help me out. How much money did The Force Awakens make? But it was a success by every facet of the word. All right. But then Rian Johnson's 2017 sequel, The Last Jedi, took the story in a different direction that many loved and many didn't. Some people tend to forget about this part. Many people do love this movie. Give me a 1 into the chat if that's one of you. Many people loved this movie. I'm not one of them. I didn't hate it. I'm kind of in the middle. I didn't love the movie. I didn't love what they did with Luke Skywalker. But there are many fans that loved the movie. It only made $2.07 billion. Why did I think it was more than that? The more you know. But many people did love this movie. Many people thought that Luke Skywalker was the one they needed to see, which is crazy. To me, at least. It's crazy to me. Fully respected. Then Abrams returned in 2019's Rise of Skywalker and tried to push the narratives closer to his original intentions, going away from what The Last Jedi said. That's an interesting comment there. I like the book, not the movie. The books for the sequel trilogies have a lot more explanation, description. I don't even know. It has more to the story, I guess, that adds to it, you know? Yeah. Where was I? Comedians learn in improv class to say yes and to an idea, introducing a new idea introduced into a show, no matter how challenging. The studio and Abrams' reaction to The Last Jedi was more like a no, actually. That's pretty funny. Rey is a nobody. No, actually, she's a Palpatine. The result was a trilogy that is a mishmash of dueling creative visions, from JJ to Ryan and back to JJ. George Lucas took a similar "I'm making this up as I go" approach with the original trilogy, but it's far easier to maintain a saga's cohesion when all the films are led by the same person. So yeah, a very common critique or complaint about the sequel trilogy is that they didn't have a plan from the get-go. And you could say the exact same thing about George Lucas in the original trilogy. He had a outline, so to speak, and A New Hope was just a part of that outline, a part of that story that he wrote. But the story evolved and grew as he went. So it was just kind of making it up as he goes from A New Hope to Empire to Jedi. It's a little bit easier when it's the same guy who created the damn thing doing that. So, yeah. The film's box offices were also told the story. At a time when Disney's Marvel movies kept breaking ticket sales records, The Force Awakens made an extraordinary $2 billion worldwide. Last Jedi dropped sharply to a still huge $1.3 billion, and The Rise of Skywalker made $1 billion, which is, still $1 billion. These are incredible numbers for any film, but they were going in the wrong direction, going down instead of up. And when you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe from the years of 2015 to 2019, they were making more and more and more and more money. Some movies more than others, but of course, Infinity War and Endgame being the two highest grossing films of all time until Avatar came back into theaters and beat them. But yeah. So, when the third entry of your trilogy launching in a new franchise sells half the tickets of the first one, you're probably making a wrong turn somewhere along the line. And that kind of involves that big divide that we talked about a little bit earlier. Around the same time, the studio experimented with two standalone titles. In 2016, gorgeous looking and compelling, if wildly uneven, Rogue One earned $1 billion. A film whose reputation has improved since it was released. Yeah, I would say that too. Over the years, people grow even more and more in love with that movie. And in 2018, the wildly panned Solo, a Star Wars story, which made a disastrous for the franchise, $393 million. So we're talking about billions of dollars, billion, what the hell? Billion, why is it doing that? Billion, and this only made $390 million. $390 million. But another film whose reputation has not improved since released, I disagree with this statement right here. I think Solo's reputation has gone up quite a bit since it released. Some fans now really, really liking it. Yeah. But both had behind-the-scenes drama and reshoots that saw their original directors being replaced during filming, which became an issue for Rogue One, but was kind of panned out, or at least fixed during production. And for Solo, it was kind of almost too late. The entire movie was pretty much already filmed by the time they got Ron Howard on board. Yeah. After Rise of Skywalker, Disney paused making big screen Star Wars movies to get all together, but continued to announce new films in development from top creatives. The list of well-known writers and actors who have come and gone is comically long. From Rian Johnson, supposed to get his trilogy, which I'm sure we'll never see, David Benioff and Dan Wesey, or whatever their names are, Dan and Dave, who did Lord of the Rings. They were supposed to get their own trilogy. Patty Jenkins, of course, Rogue Squadron. Colin Trevorrow, who was originally going to direct Rise of Skywalker. Damon Lindelof, who was going to do the Rey movie. David S. Goyer, I don't know what he was going to do. Josh Trank, Don't know what he was going to do. Guillermo del Toro, who is going to do a Jabba the Hutt movie or a Boba Fett movie. Taika Waititi, who's still kind of on hold, I guess. And Kevin Feige, who a lot of fans really, really wanted to see his version of a Star Wars movie for sure. But all those different directors and writers were at one point or another confirmed by Lucasfilm themselves or just very heavily speculated they were going to get their own Star Wars movie or show. Some of these projects were... wait, what? Oh, yeah. Some of these projects were confidently announced as movies that were definitely happening until they weren't. And Patty Jenkins is probably the most known for that. And there's others which they've never revealed publicly. They actually don't even mention the Donald Glover Lando movie in this either. But all these movies at one point or another were supposed to happen. And they didn't. Cancel a Rey movie? That's definitely not going to happen. Oh no, my mouse is going to die. Oh, you guys can't see that. Never mind. Okay. If all this seems rather chaotic from a studio that famously meticulous, well, yes, it does. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Actually, I was going to say they didn't mention James Mangold. Okay, here we go. A batch of projects are still in the work. James Mangold is developing a Dawn of the Jedi feature. Sean Levy is working on an untitled Star Wars film. Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron was resurrected this year. Lindelof's feature starring Daisy Ridley's film has shifted to director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy and also being written by, what's his name? Peaky Blinders guy. The Peaky Blinders dude. What the hell's his name? Why do I want to say that's not his name? What's the Peaky Blinders dude? What is the Peaky Blinders dude? Stephen Knight. Thank you. Cillian Murphy. No, Cillian Murphy's the main character in Peaky Blinders, yes. But no, Stephen Knight. I meant the writer, yes. Stephen Knight. Stephen Knight is now the writer for the Rey movie. That's what I was trying to do. Thank you. Yes. Not Cillian or Cillian Murphy. Yeah. No, not the main character of Peaky Blinders, the writer of Peaky Blinders. Yeah, okay. Where was I? Oh yeah. Even as the studio spat out announcements after announcements on the film side, Disney largely switched its focus to bringing Star Wars to TV for its Disney Plus streaming service. The show, I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold. Din frickin' Djarin. Once again, Disney also came out of the gate incredibly strong on the show side of things. In 2019, debut season of Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian, nearly single-handedly making Disney Plus an out-of-the-box success, charmed critics and audiences, and was even nominated for an Emmy for Best Drama. I actually didn't know that. That's pretty crazy. Moreover, The Mandalorian proved live-action Star Wars on TV was possible. It's easy to forget that the show was considered a big gamble at one time, given Favreau also launched the MCU in 2008 with Iron Man. He deserves to be honored at one of those medal ceremonies on Yavin 4. Yeah, he does. But it was a big gamble at one point. Actually, creating Baby Yoda or Baby Grogu was a huge gamble in the eyes of Disney, because making Yoda one of the most iconic characters of all time, who only exists, I mean, of course, Yaddle exists, but he's the only one of two of his species, which, by the way, species is still a mystery. It's a big gamble. In Season 3, The Mandalorian creatively stumbled a bit, ratings slipped a little, and the show received backlash for the first time, and that was for a number of reasons. Gina Carano being fired, the about 2.5-year gap in between Season 2 and Season 3, and the whole Book of Boba Fett deal, too. Instead of a fourth season, Disney decides to pivot The Mandalorian to launch its first Star Wars feature film since The Rise of Skywalker, coming out in 2026. The Mandalorian and Grogu will probably perform well. I certainly hope so. I think The Mandalorian and Grogu movie has the opportunity to make like Force Awakens money, like $2 billion, if not more, for a few reasons. Din and Grogu are already household names. Like Baby Yoda, every kid on the planet, over exaggeration, loves that character, has a Baby Yoda toy. Look down. Oh, I was going to say look down. He's on your shirt. He's not on my shirt today, but look down. He's on your shirt. He's behind me somewhere. Look at him. He's right here. Look at the little baby. He's everywhere. So Grogu is going to easily push $1 billion into this movie. Easy. So this movie has the chance to make billions upon billions of dollars. And bring us back to the movie theaters to hopefully start a new trilogy, which we talked about on Tuesday. All right. Yet it also looks like Disney spent many years and untold capital struggling to develop a new Star Wars movie. And its best idea was an extra long episode of a TV show. I mean, technically, yes. From The Mandalorian coming out in from The Mandalorian came 2021's spin-off, The Book of Boba Fett, which is where some problems with the franchise's TV efforts first emerged. So much about this brief effort was weirdly clunky. Yes, clunky. 2 Mandalorian episodes were inexplicably sandwiched into the show's 7 episodes. Yeah, which was weird. 7 instead of 8. And they felt like a Band-Aid effort to repair the struggling show. The Book of Boba Fett was originally a series, not a mini-series, but it was quickly considered... Wait, what? But it quickly considered... Oh, talking about only being one season. Yes. There have been 4 new shows since then. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series in 2022 from showrunner Deborah Chow, who came over from The Mandalorian. Why does it do that? I'm not doing that. Why you do that? Who came over from The Mandalorian. Fans were excited to see Ewan McGregor reprise his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Hayden Christensen return as Darth freaking Vader. The show was likable enough despite some weak sequences, and a winner in ratings. Obi-Wan Kenobi opened to a 1.03 billion minutes watched of viewing, according to Nielsen numbers, even bigger than The Mandalorian Season 3 opening, which was 823 million, and concluded with a strong 860 million for its finale. Obi-Wan Kenobi was a limited series, however, and there was no current plans for more episodes. Although we've talked about it in the past, the possibility for a second season, Ewan McGregor wanting to come back, Hayden Christensen wanting to come back, all that other stuff. But on paper, Obi-Wan was a very, very big success. Numbers-wise, it did some of the biggest numbers because you had the actors of Hayden and Ewan, and you had the characters of Vader and Obi-Wan that fans wanted to see more of. Big ticket items. I don't know why I'm losing my voice today, but it's really pissing me off, Chad. You know what? I know it's early. We're only about 40. Oh my God, we're already 50 minutes into this thing. 50 minutes in, but can I get some good cups follow orders, please? Dominic, what's up? Okay. All right. After Kenobi, in the same year in 2022, was Andor. From Rogue One fixer, Tony Gilroy, who returned to make a prequel series to the film he swooped in to rescue midway through production. Andor was a grown-up Star Wars title that felt grounded and heavily used practical effects and on-location filming instead of the LED volume wall technology used by the other shows for their backgrounds, which sometimes made them look a little blurry like blurry stage plays. The show was also massively expensive, with the budget estimated to be as high as $250 million for only 12 episodes. Critics and its fans loved the result. That's an overstatement. And Andor was Emmy nominated for Best Drama Series at 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Andor is currently the best reviewed live-action Star Wars TV show or movie. Think about that. The Andor show is the highest rated Star Wars anything, movie or show. I guess live action, but movie or show. That's pretty wild. Especially when it was coming out, it was getting so much hate from the Star Wars fandom. Andor's ratings did not fully reflect its esteem. It opened with a 624 million minutes, which is half, or almost half, of what Kenobi did, falling to a $400 million range for the subsequent weeks. $400 million. You're talking about that compared to Kenobi's billion. Crazy. Then jumping back to 674 million for its finale. There you go. Wow, it had more viewers by its finale. What the heck? Had more viewers by its finale, which is crazy. There will be a second season in 2025 to conclude the story. Tony Gilroy's original pitch for the show was 5 seasons, and has said it was his decision to shorten the project. It would not be surprising if Andor's ratings pop for a second season, as more casual Star Wars fans are discovering the show, because they didn't for season 1. Did you guys know that? Give me a 1 into the chat if you knew that. That Andor was originally supposed to be 5 seasons. I get that we love Andor, and Andor is really, really good, but 5 seasons? Would you have wanted that? 5 seasons. Would you have rather it be 5 seasons? Andor is peak, but it's still mid. That sentence doesn't even make sense. You just contradicted yourself. Yeah, no? 5 would be too much? There's only 4 seasons, dude? What do you mean? Andor's only going to have 2 seasons. Andor will only have 2 seasons. But at one point, it was planned to be 5. Okay. Now moving on to Ahsoka, which is my personal favorite. 2023's Ahsoka from Clone Wars mastermind and Mandalorian co-chief Dave Filoni, now in its live-action driver's seat for the first time. The show received positive reviews. It currently sits at an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes, and somewhat mixed reviews from the fans. So is every project. Ahsoka's premiere ratings were comparable to The Mandalorian Season 3 opener with 829 million minutes watched. Double Andor. Well, double Andor's other episodes, I guess, not its finale. Then it declined, averaging about 570 million for the rest of its run. A second season was announced as in development in January, and sources say that the new season will undergo production next year. So Ahsoka, pretty well received, so to speak. 86 is pretty good. Then comes The Acolyte. Now, they don't talk about the animated shows from Rebels and Bad Batch and Clone Wars in here, but it's just live action stuff. Then comes The Acolyte. The Acolyte in 2024 from Leslie Headland. The series was set 100 years before The Phantom Menace and had the franchise's most diverse cast along with several female leads. The New York Times revealed the 8-episode series cost $180 million, only $10 million less than Dune Part 2. My God. But now it's reported that's $230 million, which is insane. The Acolyte received largely positive critic reviews, 78 on Rotten Tomatoes. Now it opened to a 91, and it slowly dropped from there, and sparked the raging culture war battle that once again exposed its ugly side of the online fandom. The Acolyte's backlash and criticism is difficult to parse, as many fans detail their creative objections from the show's storytelling and its bold take on Jedi lore. Just because we don't like it doesn't mean we're racist. Basically, some other Acolyte bashers were, well, clearly racist. So I'm not here to crap on anyone for liking or disliking The Acolyte. That's not what this stream is for. But it's true. There are some people who have valid excuses for not liking The Acolyte, and that's perfectly fine. Not everybody's going to like everything Star Wars. That's for damn sure. But there are some other people that are just hating to hate, or they're just, yeah. The Acolyte premiere ratings were the lowest to date for any live-action Star Wars series, launching at 488 million minutes watched, according to Nielsen numbers in the U.S. streaming figures. Then the show ratings sank even further, The Acolyte dropping out of the Nielsen top 10 for several weeks, not typical for a Star Wars show. It was impossible for Disney to spin this one as a concluded story. The season ended on a cliffhanger, but The Acolyte will not be getting a second season. The cancellation has been portrayed by many defendings as baffling, even conspiratorial. But the show's ratings trends and reception points to the pragmatic decisions on studio's part. So yeah, from a business perspective, it does not look like a smart idea to continue The Acolyte. I understand there's a lot of fans that really want to see a second season. Me being one of them, I want to see a season 2 for that Acolyte show. I want to see more of those characters. Who doesn't want to see more Plagueis? Who doesn't want to see more Chimera? But from a business perspective, because of the numbers being so low, because of the absolute war in the Star Wars fandom for 8 straight weeks, actually probably more than that, after the show ended and before the show even began, it was chaotic, to say the least, and divided, to say the least. So it makes sense from a business perspective to not give a second season to that show, because you don't want another year or two of chaoticness in the fandom. He who says, I hate this argument. We're talking about a small minority, and every fandom has people like that. If the show was good, it would defend itself. I agree with that. And I think it actually did. I think this show is really good. And if you watch it from start to finish without listening to all that nonsense or listening to any side of it, really, if you go in with your own sort of open mind, I think you'll probably like it. But that's just me personally. I loved it quite a bit. So, yeah. Yeah, if I didn't preface this already, and I think I did at the beginning of the stream, but I don't remember, this is all just opinionated things. This is all just a completely subjective conversation. Whether you like The Acolyte or not is completely up to you. Whether you like Rogue One or The Mandalorian is completely up to you. I meet people all the time, or I don't meet them, but I talk to them online all the time that hate, not dislike, hate the prequel trilogy, hate the Revenge of the Sith. And to me, Revenge of the Sith is the best Star Wars movie. So obviously we have a differing opinion there. Does it mean that the Revenge of the Sith is a good movie? To me, yes. But to you, maybe not. That's the big issue here when we talk about, and we'll finish this in a second. That's the big issue here when we talk about, is something good or bad? Or is something a success or not a success? It's two almost completely different conversations. Because the Star Wars fandom is so large, millions upon millions upon millions of fans, every individual fan has their own opinion. So I may like one project, you may think it's okay, somebody else may hate it, somebody else may think it's the greatest thing on planet Earth. But it's the same project still. And having millions upon millions of fans, having millions upon millions of different opinions is going to end in arguments and more arguments online. And you want to try and keep that at a minimum, I guess. You want to try. All right, let's keep reading. Hang on, I might have to plug. Whatever. Okay. On December 3rd, Disney is launching John Watts and Christopher Ford's Skeleton Crew, which centers on a group of children embarking on a space adventure, making an all-age rating smash is difficult nowadays. So having Skeleton Crew focus on kids, like Andor is targeting grown-ups, might be a smart play. The creators have strongly suggested that the show will be another one-and-done limited series, but Lucasfilm is considering Skeleton Crew a series, unless the ratings decide otherwise. So whether there will be a second season for Skeleton Crew is still up in the air, but it's technically considered a series right now, not marketed as a limited one, so there could be more. But that comes out in 2 months from today, and hopefully Skeleton Crew is something that can mend all these crazy bridges between all these fans that are arguing all day long online. But I don't think it will. I don't think anything will at this point. There's always just going to be arguing. It's whether it's more arguing than less arguing. I'm hoping Skeleton Crew will be something that most fans can galvanize behind, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, but looking ahead, we have hope. Rebellions are built on hope. Star Wars is built on hope. All right. So that's 6 live-action shows in 5 years. Just one, The Mandalorian, has been an outright hit with critics and fans and has delivered a multi-season run, which is a traditional model for a TV success. This doesn't mean that single seasons of TV cannot be a win. Limited series are considered hits all the time. But there's a reason popular close-ended limited series like the debut seasons of HBO's The White Lotus and FX's Shogun were given second season orders and becoming ongoing series. Making a show that can run for multiple seasons is typically the goal, even for streamers, because it encourages subscribers to stick around, keeping their monthly subscription. There are also considerable startup costs to making something new, particularly in the fantasy space. Enormous amounts of production, costumes and prop designs, and all-around world building. The Acolytes Season 1 took 4 years to make, but the second season would likely only take half the time because all those sets and all those things are already created. With an ongoing series, a company doesn't have to work hard and spend as much on re-earning its audience either. With The Mandalorian Season 2, it already had its pre-existing audience that came from Season 1. What's up, Brandon? What's up, John? How we doing? One would think that Disney would want more juice for its from some of these squeezes. Talking about doing second seasons. Now, Andor's getting a second season. Ahsoka's getting a second season. The likelihood of Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, even The Acolyte getting a second season is pretty low. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility, but it is pretty low for right now. But if you do make a second season, like Andor is right now, and Ahsoka is as well, then you're having those fans who already loved the first season come back for more, and hopefully bringing other fans on board. And then they go watch the first season as well. Because what is left for Disney Plus after Skeleton Crew? The final season of Andor and the second season of Ahsoka. In 2020, Disney bullishly announced 10 new Star Wars shows at its investors event, heralding a glorious new era for Star Wars TV. These entries included Lando, which has now been turned into a movie, not a show anymore, and Rangers of the New Republic, which was scrapped for reasons. That's pretty funny. Reasons, a lot of them. But the prospects of being left with a single ongoing live-action TV show after Andor concludes surely wasn't the company's hope coming out of that announcement. 4 years later, they're coming to a close. With Andor ending and Ahsoka Season 2 kind of, it's not the end of the show, but it's an end. What's next? Hanging over all this is the increasing suspicion that the company may have wrung out the rag, creatively speaking, on storylines culled from George Lucas's original trilogy and prequel trilogy. Even the Acolyte haters should give the show credit for telling a story that's far removed from the Skywalker saga, as does Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew not so much, but yeah. This isn't entirely Disney's fault, but it's one challenge moving forward. How do you make Star Wars feel fresh and new while still feeling like Star Wars, and it's not, say, Rebel Moon? Rebel Moon is Zack Snyder's take on Star Wars. He did it with Netflix. They just came out this year, if anybody is wondering what that means. But how do you do something new and fresh in Star Wars in a different time period that isn't the Skywalker saga that still feels like Star Wars? That's the line that Disney's going to have to cross very, very soon. That's the challenge they're going to have to overcome very, very soon, because all these shows inside the Skywalker saga are coming to an end. The company has enjoyed more consistent results in its animated side, which has been largely championed by Dave Filoni himself and of course, George Lucas. Shows such as Rebels in 2014, The Bad Batch 2021, Star Wars Visions 2021, Tales of the Jedi 2020 are critically acclaimed and well liked by fans. Visions and Rebels having the highest Rotten Tomatoes scores of Star Wars content, tied with 98%. Visions has a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes? And Rebels does too? What? I did not know that. See, I always say Rebels is the most underrated Star Wars project ever. 98%? That's crazy. That's crazy. Rebel Moon flew too close to the sun. I still like Snyder, though. Please don't kill me. I'm going to be completely honest. I liked Rebel Moon Part 1. Came out like late last year. I didn't watch Part 2. Not for lack of trying. I mean, I just forgot it happened. Like, it came out in April of this year or something, and I just didn't even know what happened. But that's crazy. 98% for Rebels, crazy. Another title, Resistance in 2018, received about 1/3 of its Nielsen viewership of Rebels and ended after 2 seasons, with its creators saying that the story was simply finished. Again, I haven't watched that, so I don't know, but yeah. What about Disney Plus subscriptions? Aren't subscriptions the real coin of the realm here? Disney Plus took off like a rocket in 2019, steadily climbing to its peak in the fourth quarter of 2022 with 164 million subscribers worldwide. Can we get 164 million subscribers on this channel? What are we doing, chat? Can we get 164 million subscribers on this channel? Let's just start with 92, shall we? Okay. 1,000, that is, not million. And then started dropping off for the first time to currently settling around 153 million. That's still quite a bit. Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy, who has produced some of the most beloved and iconic movies in cinema history, in addition to successfully relaunching Star Wars in cinemas with The Force Awakens and trailblazing into TV with The Mandalorian, has overseen the Star Wars franchise since 2012. Any mention of Kathleen Kennedy amid a look at the Star Wars track record cannot be separated from the fact that she has been the target of hateful and ugly attacks in the fandom. That's for sure. South Park also piled on by mocking her in a recent episode. Although this episode is quite funny, I watched it myself, it is true. She gets a whole lot of crap on that. Still, Kathleen Kennedy shouldn't be considered immune from criticism. And one thing recent political headlines have shown is that the myth of only I can do it type of leadership. Yeah. On the parks front, the company doesn't publicly release any attendance numbers for its land, so it's tough to clock in exactly how Star Wars Lands of Galaxy's Edge is faring at Disney parks across the planet. The company's third quarter investors report stated the attraction remains one of the most popular in its parks and ranks number 1 in guest satisfaction. They also sold $1.2 million in lightsabers. Wow. $1.2 million in lightsabers is crazy. But in 2023, the company's infamous Star Wars interactive hotel experience, Galaxy Star Cruiser, was reportedly cost nearly $1 billion to create. Spectacularly blew up like Alderaan, shutting its windowless cabins and blue milk slinging cantinas after only 1 year. It's funny, I completely forgot about this thing, but it is funny when you think back about it. It's crazy how expensive it was just to be there for like 2 nights. It was something like $5,000 for a night or something crazy like that. Don't quote me on that, but it was something close to that. Absolutely bonkers. But still, the parks have been extremely successful. Galaxy's Edge is jam-packed every single day at Disney. I've been there. It's awesome. It's like you live in Star Wars. It's so unbelievably cool. And of course, you can buy lightsabers. You can make your own droid and stuff like that. But the stealth goldmine of the franchise remains merchandising. Disney typically doesn't release numbers for individual product lines, but sources say Star Wars merch generated $1 billion for the company last year. Baby Grogu has surely been a retail godsend. Though it's hard to imagine Brazil action figures flying off the shelves. Oh my, what? Okay, but yes, merchandising has always been one of the biggest things for Star Wars. If you don't know the story, when George Lucas created the first Star Wars movie, he held on to the merchandising rights because he knew that merchandising was going to be a huge part of this franchise, of this whole universe. From action figures to lightsabers, blasters, all of it. It's really where the money is made, and that is in merchandising. During a presentation in March to fight to fight an activist investor who accused the company of overspending, Disney also revealed that Lucasfilm has generated nearly $12 billion in total revenue in its $4 billion investment. I remember that, yeah, earlier this year. There's so much stuff into this fuzzy umbrella. Wait, what? Sure. Number. However, including non-Star Wars titles, the project's future return, and also so much left out, like the cost of everything. So it's tough to know what to make of that $12 billion number, other than Star Wars generates a lot of money, which you probably already knew. So let us, at long last, go back to the big question of the headline. Is Disney bad at Star Wars? On balance, or on paper, no. On paper, no. Disney gave Star Wars fans what they wanted for decades. A lot more Star Wars from different visionary filmmakers, and some of it has been terrific. Some of it's been some of the greatest Star Wars we've ever seen. A dormant franchise that once followed a singular diagnostic storyline has exploded into a more diverse galaxy of characters and stories. Yes. Even the so like what it's saying here in a dormant franchise is kind of an understatement, because when they bought the franchise, it was still making the Clone Wars. But when George Lucas sold the franchise, what they're talking about here is that he was not going to be making more projects. He sold the franchise because he wanted to be done. He wanted to retire. He didn't want to do a sequel trilogy because he's talked about this publicly. If he did a sequel trilogy, he'd be done by the time he was 80, and he didn't want to be making Star Wars movies when he was 80. He wanted to do other things, like make his museum and just enjoy retirement. So it would have been a dormant franchise if Disney didn't buy it. That's kind of what it's talking about there. Yeah, not so much a dormant franchise, but yeah. Okay. With shows like The Mandalorian and or Rebels, clear even the high bar of hardcore fans might reasonably set. So they clear that line. A lot of online uproar is a sign audiences are at least still very engaged and care about the franchise. A truer sign of failure would be apathy and disinterest. So if the fans just stopped caring, that's when you know something's really, 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 really wrong. Because once Star Wars fans just stop caring, that's when you know that the content's dead, the franchise is dead, and it's all over. Star Wars has never been more alive than it is today. It's never been a better time to be a Star Wars fan, if I haven't mentioned that enough. It is absolutely the best time to be one. Just to look forward to stuff and to go watch stuff that you have already seen before. But the Star Wars fandom itself has never been more alive. Now, whether that's a good thing or not with all the fighting going on, that's a whole nother conversation, but it is still quite alive, to say the least. But there's also another question. Could Disney be better at Star Wars? Clearly, in this person's opinion, yes. You have your hits, you have your misses, but clearly they could be. The company's live-action movies and TV efforts, on average, could be and should be better. In 2018, Disney CEO Bob Iger admits that the company made a mistake with Star Wars, making movies a little too much too fast. After Iger temporarily left the company in 2020, Disney/Lucasfilm arguably made the same error again on the TV side. George Lucas famously instructed these actors to be faster and more intense. That was his sort of directing. George Lucas is a great director, but he's not a great actor's director. That's kind of what he's infamously known to be bad at, is directing actors specifically. And his one sort of line was always, be faster and more intense. Yeah. But that doesn't typically work as a franchise strategy. As Marvel has discovered this as well with all these different Disney Plus shows, they've discovered quickly that making more and more and more and more products is not always the best idea. It's unclear if Star Wars requires more order or less, more empire like corporate oversight, or more rebellion like creative chaos. Remains to be seen. But it's long seemed like there's somehow too much of both, which has resulted in a master plan that constantly is being rewritten, and content that sometimes feels undercooked and clunky. And it's not the fault of the fans that is increasingly having a bad feeling about this. Now, we talked about this a lot on Tuesday's live stream about the future and a vision of the future coming from Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau in this Mandoverse time period. So maybe, just maybe, things are changing, I guess. But you might agree that there was too many movies coming out in the early 2010s, or you might agree that there wasn't enough movies coming out in the 2010s. And you might agree that there might be too many shows coming out in the 2020s, or you might disagree and think there should be more. But I guess that's just your opinion. Damn, does this article ever end? I guess it ends there. Okay, cool. So that's the whole gist of it. Is Disney Star Wars good or bad? It's a completely subjective, completely opinionated statement. However, is it good? Is it bad? Tell me in the chat. First things first, I look at this poll, which has almost 100 votes on it, and 77% of you say it's good. Now, when you look at the good, I think, personally, it overcomes the bad. When it comes to Star Wars, I can sit down and watch pretty much anything. I can watch The Last Jedi. I can watch The Rise of Skywalker and enjoy myself being in the Star Wars universe. I can escape to the Star Wars universe, which is supposed to be an escape to the Star Wars universe. But some of the stuff that Disney's made has been some of the greatest, absolute greatest Star Wars ever created. And as Amanda says right there, Star Wars is just Star Wars. When you talk about Disney Star Wars versus George Lucas Star Wars, it's all the same. It's being brought to you by a lot of the same creators as well when you look at like Dave Filoni. But there's still been so many people that work on Star Wars today that either worked on the prequel trilogy or worked on the original trilogy even, that have been around Star Wars, that have been around George Lucas, that have been around all these same creators that are still creating Star Wars to date. So the argument of Disney Star Wars versus George Lucas Star Wars is kind of an irrelevant one as well. But let's see what you guys have to say about this, shall we? I just read for a shit ton of time. But let's read the chat. Oh, Fearless with a very generous $2 holla. I appreciate that, Fearless. Says, so glad I found this channel 1 year ago. A Bendu impression too? I can do a Bendu impression. But a year ago you found this channel, Fearless? That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay. Let me do these two impressions first. Yeah, let me do those first. Make sure your stuff is charged for 100K, Mike. You're almost at 92K. What do you mean charged? What do you mean charged? All right, let's look this up. Okay, let's see. Andy K wanted the impression of Ezra. Jesus. Ezra Bridger in Ahsoka. Ezra in Ahsoka. All right, let's see it.
I knew I could count on you.
All right, let's take a second. First things first, a year ago today, the finale of Ahsoka dropped, which is crazy. But This thing too, what's up? This scene is so good. Now, this scene hits very hard for me as a Rebels fan because Rebels ends in 2018. This show releases in 2023. So that's what, five years on paper, but probably closer to 6 years. 6-ish years. We watched Ezra disappear into the unknown with the Purrgil with Grand Admiral Thrawn. We didn't know if he was dead or not. We just didn't know. And this scene hits so hard when Sabine finds Ezra, and we know that he's alive. Jano, what's up? All right, let me do my Ezra impression though.
I knew I could count on you.
And shout out to Iman Esfandi for the incredible performance. He is the perfect, absolute perfect Ezra Bridger. Mike is at 98 million video views. Yeah, so we are about to hit 100 million video views as well. That's a crazy milestone too. I think we'll hit that probably by the end of this week, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, perfect casting, absolute perfect casting. All right, let me do the line. Let me stop stalling here.
I knew I could count on you.
I knew I could count on you. Do you guys ever get the feeling of like when you're so happy or you're so like excited and you just feel it in your whole body and you can't stop smiling and you're just like gonna explode with joy? That's what I feel when I watch this scene. But let me.
I knew I could count on you.
I knew I could count on you. No, what was that? I knew I could count on you. That's pretty good. Not too shabby. I gotta work on my Ezra for sure. I definitely gotta work on my Ezra. Yeah. So good. So damn good. And let's finish the scene.
Dope. Sure took you long enough.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay. There you go, Auntie K. I hope that was worth it. Worth the wait. Oh, we got a member. Explore the Force. Jack and Jimmy. Welcome to the people who love Star Wars. Welcome to the people who love Star Wars, Explore the Force. If you guys have not yet watched our podcast together or our live stream together, go check that thing out at Explore the Force on their channel. Some of the greatest people ever in the Star Wars community right there. And we have quite the conversation about old Luke Skywalker and his end and old Logan and his end. And we definitely got to have a conversation again soon. Hopefully get you guys on this show as well. We've actually never had a guest on this show, so maybe you guys could be the first. That'd be crazy. Okay. Mike, I just ordered a new lightsaber. That's sick, B-man. Whose lightsaber did you get? That is pretty damn cool, if I do say so myself. Okay. Matthew says, Ewan is not added to the original trilogy. Only Hayden is in the Force Ghost scene in Return of the Jedi, which is still controversial and hated, as is the replace of Yub Yub. True. I mean, it's not hated by most, but I would say it is hated by a few. Hayden Christensen showing up there actually makes sense. Ewan McGregor showing up wouldn't. Hayden makes sense because Anakin never grew up. I mean, he did, but he was Vader, and he resorts back to the last time he was with the light side when he becomes a Force Ghost. Ewan wouldn't show up and wouldn't make sense because he does grow up and he does die with the light side as an older Obi-Wan, and that's Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan. Yeah. Oh, Cole with a very generous $5 holla says, it's bad if content doesn't make money back. Core marketing isn't buying core marketing isn't buying it. So money coming in means less content in future, which is happening now. Not a hater. I know you're not a hater, Cole. Of course I know that. But you're absolutely right. Technically, bad is, of course, a subjective thing for each individual fan. But bad, something being bad to Disney themselves, to the business side of Disney, is whether it makes them money or gets them views, which makes them money. And that's the conversation that can be had about all these shows. I mean, Ahsoka had a lot of had some great views. Like when you look at it views wise, your best shows are Kenobi and Mando, actually in that order, because Kenobi was the most viewed one. Yeah, absolutely. Views is money. I mean, ticket sales is money too, but yeah. I grew up on the special editions and the prequels. I grew up in a weird spot where I was born in 2002. So, like, 2002 is when Attack of the Clones came out. And Revenge of the Sith comes out in 2005, so I wasn't watching it in the theaters when I was 3. So I grew up watching the prequel trilogy, but after they came out already. And I grew up mostly on the Clone Wars and in Rebels. And really the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters was The Force Awakens. So, yeah, I grew up in a weird time there. I love Andor, but I'd rather see just 2 tight, strong seasons than having it be dragged out into 5 seasons. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I absolutely love the story of Andor, but 5 is just too many. I agree with that too. Hodges says, I like to see more of Reva being fixed by the modders on Tatooine, but eventually crosses paths with Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Vos on the Hidden Path, helping younglings and redeeming her in a redemption for her character. Honestly, when you said Reva and modders, or the Vespa gang from the Book of Boba Fett, those are 2 of my least favorite characters, or group of characters, I should say. In Star Wars, Reva is my least favorite character from Kenobi, just because I think her character is very just useless in that story. Nothing against Moses Ingram. I thought her performance was fantastic. I'm just not a fan of the character. But the Vespa gang is the worst part of the Book of Boba Fett, in my personal opinion. So once you put those 2 together, I was like, what? No thanks. But then when you actually put it that way, it makes a lot of sense. If Reva gets fixed up by the Vespa gang and then goes with Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Vos, both 2, Quinlan's a Jedi who survived Order 66. Asajj is kind of a Sith who became a Jedi. If she works with them with the Hidden Path, that would actually be a story I'd want to see with Reva. Absolutely. Absolutely. Ahsoka is peak. I agree with that. Diego Luna also said he didn't want to play the character in his 50s. That's true too. If you do 5 seasons of Andor, Diego Luna is going to look a lot older than he did in Rogue One. I mean, he still looks great, and he still would look great, but he would look noticeably older. You'd probably have to CGI him down after 5 seasons. Because it would be 5 seasons, but the time between season 1 and season 2 is almost 2.5 years. So it wouldn't just be 5 years. Boss Morrow says, I love your positivity towards the franchise. I appreciate that. I love your positivity towards the franchise. I appreciate it. They meant that the peak of Disney Star Wars is just mid in the grand scheme of things. In the grand scheme of what things? Star Wars things? That doesn't even make sense. It actually has gotten to the point where we've had way more Star Wars content in this Star Wars era than we ever received in the George Lucas era. Whether that's a bad thing or a good thing, it's a fact. Andor was originally 1 year per season. Shame that we never got that. Why was it rushed? It's not rushed. More so, I think, honestly, it would have been dragged out if that was the case. The first season is 1 year, but the next season is going to be 4 years, each 3-episode arc being 1 year. So it wouldn't really make much sense to just drag on the story for 5 seasons if you don't have the story to do so, you know? Yeah. Your pal Joe says, I was so torn between the 2. Rogue One is my favorite, and I loved Andor so much, but Ahsoka is also so good. I don't know if I can choose. Well, that's a good problem to have. That's probably the best problem you can have as a Star Wars fan, is loving all these projects so much that you can't choose just one. That's an incredible problem to have, yeah. Most entertainment has peaks and valleys. Setting out to make garbage is something else. That is something else. who would set out to make garbage. Yeah. Yeah. I gasped at moments in the Acolyte show, which rarely happens to me when I watch TV. So if it moves me in that way, I reckon it's good television. I mean, I had so much fun watching the Acolyte. I understand that fans didn't. That's perfectly fine. But hey, I liked it. Yeah, no? Yeah, no? And Joe, you know I would not be doing that. You know that. Rings of Power, I haven't watched the finale yet, so I had to pre-read that. Okay, I'm not going to read it out loud because I don't know if it has something to do with... If you haven't watched it yet, just I won't spoil it because I haven't watched it yet either. Yeah, Rings of Power finale came out today. I have yet to watch it, but it did come out today. Indeed. Yeah. If the budget could be brought down, then they could do more, but the numbers would have to grow. Yeah, that's the thing too, is the Acolyte costs too much. If that $230 million number is right, if it's real, then I really don't know how that's going to happen. Yeah. Sorry I'm not interacting much. I'm going to karaoke tonight and trying to get ready. Well, first things first, how do you get ready for karaoke? And second, where's my invite? I want to do karaoke tonight. Are we doing karaoke tonight? Are we doing karaoke tonight? Space Ace, what's up? Says Disney Star Wars is trash. Well, Space Ace, to you, I say, did you not like The Mandalorian? What about Rogue One? Genuinely asking. Yeah. Revenge of the Sith was really the last good movie besides Rogue One. So you just contradicted yourself in the same sentence. Revenge of the Sith was really the last good movie besides Rogue One. So Rogue One was the last good movie? Are we doing karaoke tonight or what? Yeah. Crazy. Brogu says, the Acolyte spent $230 million on that show. It spent more money than on the Dune 2 movie. And you guys wanted a season 2? Unbelievable. Well, I want a season 2 for the story, not anything to do with the budget of the show. You know? It's okay to like or dislike anything. The problem the problem is that people won't respect those who disagree with them. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. Absolutely, John. People can dislike or like whatever they want. That's perfectly fine. The problem becomes when certain people disagree with each other, they start to argue or threaten or put down or bully or whatever word you want to implant in that sentence. They start to attack each other. And that's the problem. Absolutely. You just have to respect other people's opinions. Like that's in the real world, this real world we exist in today, you all exist in it. If you went up to somebody in real life and said, hey, I don't know why you do this, but you go, I'm Mike, nice to meet you. I'm a big Ahsoka fan. That's the opening line. And they go, oh, I'm John, nice to meet you. I hate Ahsoka, and you're a freaking idiot. That would never happen. Literally never happen. It only happens online when people can just hide their faces and they think they can just say whatever they want. Whether it's because it's how they actually feel or it's because they just want to start up an argument. I don't know. But yeah, you got to respect other people's opinions in any sort of light. Like if somebody comes to me and says The Last Jedi is their favorite Star Wars movie, I'm not going to shit on them. I'm not going to go, you're a freaking idiot. It's just not going to happen. You know? You know? Chat? Do you know? I think Solo is underrated. Me too. I think Solo is very underrated. Yeah, absolutely. I think 90% of Star Wars fans agree that Empire Strikes Back is amazing. I mean, I would kind of agree with that, but I don't know how we would pull up all of the Star Wars fandom. That's pretty hard to do. Yeah. It's always the case that those who have negative opinions typically are most vocal and louder. It's not that the positive opinions don't exist, they're just drowned out of the conversation. Absolutely, yeah. Usually, negative opinions are shouted from the rooftops, and positive ones are kept close to the vest or not even spoken at all. That is always usually the case. And negativity sells. If you haven't noticed that online, negativity sells for sure. So when you're making money off of it, it doesn't hurt to be more vocal about it. Yeah. In my opinion, Skeleton Crew may have problems after The Acolyte. Skeleton Crew might be in a similar situation as Solo was. Solo had issues in the box office because it released after The Last Jedi. Skeleton Crew might be in a similar situation here. It's the first live-action show to release after The Acolyte, which was a very divisive show, and it might be met with a little bit of backlash, so to speak. Yeah. It's a good thing I like audiobooks. Audiobooks are great. I got a feeling Skeleton Crew is going to cook. I hope so. I really, really hope so. I mean, only time will tell. Hopefully we get a second trailer sometime soon. I think since we're now in October, I think we're going to probably get one very soon. Hopefully one that reveals more information. But yeah, I hope it does. I hope it cooks. I hope it absolutely cooks. Brandon, what's up? What is up? Brogu says, Star Wars used to bring people together, like the original trilogy. When you have people trying to push agendas, that's polarizing. I agree with that, but where in The Acolyte is there pushing of any agendas? You could say even that you couldn't say. Like there's I was going to say the interviews and stuff, but that you can't even say that. I want to see Neil. Neil feels. Yeah, I want to see Neil too. I can't wait. It's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. John says, but if you go back 1,000 years, then surely it will feel the same. If you go back 100 years in our history books, it might look entirely different. Oh, it surely doesn't feel the same. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at right now, we just talked about the internet and how it drastically changes the Star Wars community. If you look at the real world right now and you go back 100 years, that takes you to 1924. 1924 is absolutely insane how different times were. There's no internet. Flying across the country isn't even a thing that you could do. There's no commercial flights anywhere. What else is different? Televisions are not in every household. Even like World War I's over, but it's before World War II. Like there's so many things that just don't even exist yet. 100 years now versus 100 years before is so completely different. And if you, like John says, go 1,000 years back to now you're talking 1020. There's no electricity. There's nothing. There's literally nothing. I mean, there's some stuff. Obviously, there was a civilization, but it's very, very different. So if you look at it from a Star Wars perspective, if you go back 1,000 years, 25,000 years to the dawn of the Jedi, think about how much everything's going to be changed. There's not going to be any hyperspace travel. Even traveling into space for some planets probably is impossible. The Jedi, the Sith are all going to look different. Ships, droids, they're all going to be different. It's going to be really, really cool. That's what excites me. That's what excites me. You know what else excites me? Sonny with a very generous $10 holla. God damn. Says, I was looking forward to season 2 of The Acolyte. Too many haters ruined the show. It's unfortunate. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of aspects that went into the cancellation of the first season, or second season, I should say. Viewer numbers and all that stuff. But yeah, it's the divide in the Star Wars fandom that put the final nail in the coffin. The negativity online. So for those fans who did want to see more of those characters, I don't know what to tell you. It's a bummer. I'm one of those people. It's something we're going to have to live with. But as Amanda says, at least we have the books. There are prequel novels still coming out next year about Indara and Venestra, about Jeki and Yord. So the stories will continue. I just don't know if a future story will continue at all. Yeah. You know? I was there in the day, 1977, when Star Wars and the fandom were not split. Empire Strikes Back was probably the best of the trilogy. I don't know what you are talking about. You don't know what I'm talking about? I don't know what I'm talking about either. I don't know when you sent that. But yeah, I mean, A New Hope didn't split the fandom because it's the first movie. Empire Strikes Back, I'm sure, didn't split the fandom because it's fan-freaking-tastic, but once you get to Return of the Jedi, things get a little shaky. Fans either didn't like the Ewoks or they did. That was a big deal. If you were old enough, you were like teddy bears saving the galaxy. What the hell's going on? Or if you were young enough, which Star Wars is made for, you were like, let's go. Teddy bears just saved the galaxy. They're so cute. You know? Freak Zeke, what's up? The director's cut of Rebel Moon was better. Yeah, didn't those come out recently? I gotta watch those, yeah. I have heard they're good, though. I have heard they're good. The pandemic helped with all subscribers' services grow, and then they dropped afterwards. Yeah, that's true. I mean, everybody was stuck at home. They had to do something, and watch television was something they could do. It's very cool how The Mandalorian worked. Because Mando Season 1 came out. Of course, they couldn't predict it happening, but the pandemic happened. And everybody was stuck inside. And they had the opportunity to finish Season 2 before that sort of happened, or at least they allowed Season 2 to finish. So we go into lockdown, and we have Clone Wars Season 7 to look forward to as animated fans, which is incredible. And then Mando Season 2, also in 2022. And what's really funny, I guess that's a whole other story for another time, I guess. But yeah, it was something great. It was something really great. Yeah. Solo fails to deepfake everything. Solo fails to deepfake Solo, you mean? Acolyte is canceled. Let's make everything Grogu related. If they cancel the Rey movie, they are fools. They won't be canceling the Rey movie, that's for sure. If Mace survived, wouldn't he have a robot hand, making him a cyborg? Microsoft Windows? What? You guys are crazy. Okay. Rebel Moon was so awful for me, couldn't even finish it? Wow. I liked the first one. I mean, it wasn't like better than anything Star Wars I've watched, but it was pretty good. Yeah. Rebels came out 10 years ago today. Yeah, it did. Indeed, it did. And Clone Wars came out 16 years ago today. That is the truth. That is the truth. Oh, what? Let's just go down to the bottom. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Okay. Let's see. Where was I? Andor was more on the expensive side, too. Disney probably wanted to reduce costs while still giving us a great series. Yeah, I mean, Andor costs more because it's more episodes. It's 12 episodes rather than 8, which is, in retrospect, a lot. It's 50% more. So it obviously will cost more. I wonder how much Season 2 will cost, though. You know? Amanda, no. You guys are crazy. Yeah, no, you're crazy. Okay. Ian says, the Acolyte ooh-ha online left me not wanting to engage online with Star Wars, but I'm glad I've come back to Mike's channel. Well, I'm glad you're back too, Ian. I'm glad you're back too. B-Man says, Mike, do you have a gaming channel? Yes, I do. Actually, I'm going to send the link into this chat right now. Why not? Because we streamed on it the other day, and I'm hoping to stream on it again soon. But, yeah, so let's let's send this, shall we? So for those of you who like watching video games, let's go check out this gaming channel, shall we? We streamed the other day, and it's a very, very small streaming channel. So I'm gonna paste the link in the chat. Go check that out. Go check that out, chat. Is the gaming channel called The Fifth Element? No, it's not. Never heard of that. Yeah. Shadow Fast, what's up, says, can you please make a what if video on this idea? What if Ahsoka didn't bomb the Jedi Temple? Well, she didn't. You mean like what if she wasn't framed for it? Interesting. So it would be kind of like what if Ahsoka didn't leave the Jedi Order? I like that a lot. The one I'm working on this week is what if Padme didn't die of sadness in Revenge of the Sith. If you guys want a sneak peek at that, I'll show you guys the thumbnail. I'm working on it right now. The script is being written. Hopefully we can get it out to you guys by Sunday. Hopefully. I really hope I can get that up by Sunday. But I'll show you guys. Oh, not what I wanted to open. Okay, there we go. So this is the thumbnail, or at least working thumbnail for this what if. Boom. So what if Padme didn't die of sadness? And of course, how that goes down. It's pretty much like she just survives, has to go into hiding. Palpatine's still lying to Vader, telling him that she's dead, she's gone, but Vader knows deep down that she's not. That conflict, the Inquisitors actually end up finding her. It actually brings in Ahsoka too, because Ahsoka's also there. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's very, very cool. Working on it right now. Script is coming together very nicely. I like it quite a bit. This is your sneak peek at the thumbnail for today. This is the sneak peek. What do we think, chat? Does it look good? Does this thumbnail look clickable for you guys? Is this a clickable thumbnail for you, chat? Huh? Would you click it? Yes. No, so they don't go into hiding together, her and Ahsoka, but she's Padme's sort of starting the rebellion. I'm giving you guys an inside look at what I'm writing right now. She's starting the rebellion with Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, stuff like that. The children still go into hiding. She still thinks it's best to go into hiding, you know, do all that stuff. Luke still goes with Obi-Wan to Tatooine. Leia still goes with Bail Organa to Alderaan. But Padme herself goes into hiding. And she starts this rebellion with Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, staying out of sight from the Empire so that they don't know she's still alive, so they don't come and kill her. But she's gonna go try to recruit Ahsoka Tano. We'll leave it at that. She goes to try to recruit Ahsoka Tano. Yeah. Oh, you're saying what if Ahsoka did bomb the Jedi Temple? That would be a little dark. If Ahsoka Tano went dark side, you're saying? Bomb the Jedi Temple? That'd be crazy. That would be wild. Yeah, that'd be wild. If Diego Luna stayed to play Cassian Andor for 5 seasons, then he would be used so much by Disney until he was 90. Yeah, he'll be playing this role till they're 90. Yeah, true. I'm loving these chat. Tell me, are you guys loving these what ifs? The first one did extremely well. I believe it's around like 22,000 views. Second one, not as much. But it was still even more fun to make, actually. I enjoy that second story even better. But are you guys enjoying these what ifs? Should we keep them going? I feel like in this time period between shows, The Acolyte ending a few months ago, Skeleton Crew still doesn't come out for another 2 months. I think this is a perfect time to do these what ifs to kind of just give you guys these awesome, cool stories, you know? I think Diego Luna would start looking too old to play a younger version of himself if it was 5 seasons. I agree with that, Mark. I could not agree with that more. All right, cool. I appreciate it. All right, cool. I'm going to end this poll. Let's see where it ended at. So go check out that gaming stream if you haven't already. Hey, Mike, there's a film. I'm not sure if you've seen it. It's called The Fifth Element. Have you seen it yet? No, never even heard of it. Never. Once. Nope, never. You know what? Now it's become such a thing that I'm just never going to watch this show. I mean, movie. Sorry. Never. Okay. By the way, did Disney Star Wars is good or bad? 76% of you say good. 23% of you say bad with over 100 votes. Crazy. What if Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru killed the stormtroopers? What if they lived? I don't think they'd let Luke go off with Obi-Wan. But yeah. 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 What have we done? Okay. I am going to have to get on out of here, though. I do have to get going today a little bit earlier than our usual 2.5 whatever hour stream. But smash a freaking like on the stream if you have not yet. Hit that subscribe and hit that bell so you get notified every time I post a video in my pretty face. I'll show up in the recommended feed of yours. This was one of my favorite streams probably of all time. I like hitting these sort of shakier topics, to say the least, but it's a lot of fun. Huge shout out to Annie K, Fearless, Cole, Sonny for the very generous super chats, and Explore the Force for becoming a member. I appreciate all of you guys so much more than you will ever know. If you are not yet in the Discord, there's a link in the description below to a Discord called The People Who Love Star Wars. Go join it. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, and may the Force be with you always. Oh, yeah. What a great stream. What a great show. Oh, I didn't do the Bendu impression. You're right, Fearless. Shnikes. Hang on. Let's do that. I apologize. Let's do the Bendu impression. Bendu Star Wars. The Bendu. Hang on. We're coming back.
Ah, you heard my call. Good. Your imbalance woke me from a deep slumber.
Imbalance?
Your presence is like a violent storm in this quiet world.
You're a Force wielder. But you're not a Jedi.
Wielder? Jedi and Sith wield the Ashlar and Bogan, the light and the dark. I'm the one in the middle.
I forgot how great the Bendu is. Okay. All right. Let's see.
Dark. I'm Sith wield the Ashlar and Bogan, the light and the dark.
The light.
I'm the one in the middle.
The light and the dark. I'm the one in the middle. Hang on. The light and the dark. I'm the one in the middle. He gets so mad about it. He gets so mad about it.
The Bendu. What do you call yourself?
What do you call yourself? That's not too bad. Not too bad. I appreciate it, Fearless, again. And may the Force be with you. Take two. Always. Oh, yeah. What a great stream. What a great show. You guys are the absolute best. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, great rest of your lives, and good night, everybody.